good.
All right, great, I like that. So, I am very honored to be here. Mrs. Morgan has asked me for the last few years to come here, and my schedule has been booked, and I actually had a Tuesday open, so here I am. So, it is an honor to be with you guys, and I am here to talk to you, but usually when I do this kind of stuff, instead of boring you with my life and things that I've done, I kind of put you guys in charge of what we're going to talk about. So, you guys are going to ask me questions, and you'll probably figure out my life road and how I got to where I'm at by the questions you ask. So instead of listening to something you don't want to hear, have you guys ask questions, and then we will go down the road that you want to go. So,
Got one right there.
all right.
Why did you start being involved in baseball?
So I am one of the last few that I've never had another job. So I graduated high school. I played 5 sports. I was really good at all of them. I got drafted after high school into professional baseball, and I've been doing it ever since. So I think this is my 30th year.
What does it take to coach an entire team with the management?
You know, it's a lot like being a teacher, because your classroom is usually dictated on the personalities of the people in it. And so my way of teaching has to curtail with the people and their personalities. So not everybody responds to yelling, not everybody responds to positivity, not everybody responds, so you kind of coach each player as an individual instead of this is what I coach. So a lot of the way I go about coaching is for you to be really comfortable in the batter's box and me to be uncomfortable coaching. Because I'm not hitting. All right.
How long have you been working with Valley, or like have you been working with Valley?
The school? No. Mrs. Morgan's son is my son-in-law. So I've been blessed to have them in my family, and so I get to see my grandkids and get to see them on special occasions, and that's how I became official.
So do you live here locally now, or do you live somewhere else? Or?
So when I got drafted, I was 18, and before Mesa was actually developed, I bought a house out in East Mesa when I was 19 and moved from California and made this my home and have it left.
Oh, but you've worked for different teams, so you've had to, you like temporarily live there?
You know what, I made the decision when I got married and had some kids that I would never take them out of normal life, and I would come in and out. So my wife and kids have lived a fairly normal life besides not having me around. But, you know, my wife's a school teacher, and my kids have all turned out halfway decent, so I'm pretty blessed.
Just halfway decent, you know.
Well, I don't like to brag about my kids, because when people talk about their kids, the person listening is going really. Go ahead.
Is there anything that you're looking forward to this year?
You know what? That's a great question, because I am taking a huge leap of faith. I am going to Taiwan to coach their professional team, and I don't speak Mandarin Chinese, and I know not one person over there. So
Have fun with that.
they called me, and anybody that has any anxiety or anything like that, they called me and they said, hey, would you like a job coaching? You know, we've heard about you, like, send us your resume. So I was talking to the guy, and they didn't call me for a couple days, and I kind of was like, we'll see what happens. And he called me back, and my wife looked at me and she goes, they gave you the job? And I said, yeah, and I gotta leave in 2 weeks. So right before Christmas is when I found out that I was going there. So I'm going to Taiwan not knowing anything about anything. I just jumping on a plane Sunday and see what happens.
I noticed you're wearing a lot of red. Is there anything to that?
Just that it matches.
But if you have a favorite color,
Oh, favorite color.
what would it be?
Usually I don't like green, but I tend to go with blue.
Okay.
But my wife's favorite color is green, so I kind of never tell her that. You know, I get the green shirt and she goes, "Oh, you look so good," and I'm like, "Oh, come on."
If you weren't a coach or like didn't play baseball, what job would you want?
Well, every year that I've come home from baseball, even when I was playing, I would paint houses or do some kind of construction work, and I would curtail my workouts like from 4 in the morning until like 6 when the job started or whatever, just to kind of always, not only to make money, but always to make me realize how lucky I am to be in baseball. You don't ever really get tired. My best day of baseball, or my worst day of baseball, is probably my best day in real life. That's how much fun I have at work.
Okay, so what would you think is more important to like do something that's gonna make you money, or to do something that you really have fun, but that doesn't make as much money?
I think there's a few people in the world that get to do both. And I think my bigger message to, you know, like Robin Williams loved making people laugh, and he committed suicide. So you think in your brain, you think, you know, he made people laugh, like that's gotta be the most fulfilling job in the world. But at the same time, he didn't work on himself. So when I'm coaching, I also am trying to teach people how to perfect themselves and teach them how to deal with anxiety and situations and be a better version of themselves, so then when the stuff comes at you, it's a lot easier to get through it, and it doesn't really take you off the track that you're on that you want to be on. Go ahead.
If there's one thing you could tell yourself, your high school self, with like school in general, what would you say?
I think that what everybody sees in me, I need to worry about how I feel and not what somebody's telling me. You know, like a lot of people judge. They'll tell you, "Oh, you know, they do this and that," and you start to believe it, and you start to worry about what, you know, you're walking down the hall, how many people worry about what somebody's thinking about them? You know, all those things. And as a high school star, or whatever you want to call what I was doing when I was in high school, I felt like I couldn't make everybody happy, and I was doing a lot of things to try to figure out how to please everybody. And what I needed to be doing is having confidence in myself and trusting my decisions and who I was, that it was good enough. So if I was to give any advice to a high school person, it would be pay attention to what your positives are and work on your negatives, so you can get to the point where you are just happy being you instead of trying to be somebody else. Because the first thing we talk about, right, is we go, "Oh, you're like that person," or "You need to be like that person," or "You need to be like this person," and automatically you start going, "Well, what's wrong with me?" You know, we do it as coaches. "Oh, that guy's the next pool," or "He's the next this guy," or "He's the next that guy," and you go, I mean, it's a lot to live up to, and it's a lot to be somebody else and not be yourself. You ever try to be not yourself all day? You kind of fall into the trap of, and they're just like, "Hey, what happened? You can't do it, huh?"
Yeah, it's impossible.
Go ahead.
So I know you have a heart for the less fortunate or the needy or special ed kids, and you're like helping out all the time. How did that come about?
Well, my uncle was Down syndrome, and so at a young age, I got a chance to be around him and see him get the enjoyment out of sports that he did, and knowing that he was never ever gonna do what I thought I was gonna do. And so I always told myself that I would play and give the most effort into what I was doing, because he would trade with me in a heartbeat to be out there on a baseball field or to be on a court or a field. And so I just kind of was my thing of like, you know, how many people complain that it's too far to walk, and then you look at a kid that's in a wheelchair and you're like, he would love to walk 5 miles. But the first thing we think is, oh my God, I gotta walk 5 miles, really? So you kind of put things in perspective, and as a player, I've had both of my knees replaced at 43 years old, which is really young for you guys that don't know about this stuff. But, you know, I couldn't walk in probably most of my 30s. I couldn't walk without excruciating pain. So you start to realize what other people are going through, and when you don't feel that pain, you kind of realize that, you know, life's a lot easier for most of us, so you need to get with it.
And then wait, oh, did anybody have a question? When did you accept Christ? Like, have you been a Christian for a long time, or when did that happen?
Well, I really, I think Mother's Day, I was probably in 8th grade. My mom and dad were going through a divorce, and I went to church with my mom, and she was going through a rough time, and I went to church, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get baptized and, you know, try to help her as much as I could, but at the same time, I didn't realize that I was going down the road I was going. So, you know, it was, you know, about 8th grade where I kind of really made a concession to pay attention to it more. I mean, obviously, I can't live up to what I'm supposed to, but at the same time, like, I'm very aware that everything that happens to me is where he wants me to be. Like, I mean, there's no way I would draw this up, what I'm doing this year, but, you know.
But you said you're doing it on faith.
I mean, that's why you go to church, that's why you pray, and, you know, I don't worry about tomorrow. I just do what I'm doing today and see what happens.
So do you get to, or have you in the past, get to share your faith in your position with players you work with and all, or?
My huge philosophy is don't tell people about Christ, show people that you have Christ in you. So I'm not a big believer of running around saying I'm a Christian. I'm like, you know what? When you're around me, you're gonna want what I have, and you're gonna ask me.
Caleb Steeler,
And
please come to the
with
front office.
professional
Caleb Steeler,
sports,
please come to the front office.
Everybody comes from different places, and everybody, you know, we have the guys from the Latin countries that go into the, you know, they have their stuff, and it's like you can get to them if you show them that you're the person you should be. And they that is something that is universal around the world. When you show people that you have a good heart, they'll gravitate to you, no matter if they speak your language or not. At least that's been my experience. So one thing that I did do, and I don't know if you guys are interested in it or not, but I brought a few things just to kind of break up the monotony of me talking. I brought a few things, and if anybody knows who these guys are, you'll be impressed. And for you people that don't know who they are, these are objects or things that the best players in the world, that's who these guys are. So does anybody know who Pete Rose is? No. Does anybody watch baseball?
Yes.
So Pete Rose has the most hits ever. I think it's 4,000 and something hits. So I brought his bat. How many people know who Bryce Harper is? This is awkward because you guys don't watch baseball. It's okay. So Bryce Harper is the guy on all the commercials that has the long hair, and he's always doing all this nonsense that he does. But he's the best, or one of the best players today. And then I brought another bat that is a guy that's named Adrian Beltre, and when they talk about the Hall of Fame, who's going into it next year, he is a guy I coached, and he's going into the Hall of Fame. And how many of you guys know who Albert Pujols is? He just hit his 700th home run, and he just retired after 20-something years. But I brought his bat, and this glove is Corey Seager. He was the shortstop for the Dodgers, and now he is with Texas. but you know who that is? Okay, that's all right. So the whole point of me bringing this stuff is not necessarily to show you that I have it, but just so you have an idea of the stuff they use, what it
Nice.
is like. And it's funny because the guy that has the most hits has the biggest bat. So it's just funny how the times have changed and, you know, the difference of what generation and generation. So we'll start with you and you can pass it around. You can't hurt them, but I prefer you not to draw on them.
Yep.
His name's on here, yeah.
No, you cannot.
Do you have a best day when you were saying your worst day and your best day? Do you have a best day in your career?
In my career?
Yeah, but.
As in far as what?
Very
My,
cool.
Well, you were saying like your worst day in your field is probably better than, you know.
my best day in real life?
Yeah, so what?
Because I get
In
it.
your career, I mean, like, aside from.
You mean my best day of my baseball career?
Yes, yes. Not like having kids or the grandbabies or things like that.
So
Career.
my biggest, I don't know, that's really hard because, you know, it encompasses so many things of, as a coach, you're so happy for players and their accomplishments, and then as a player, you know, obviously,
As a player,
as a player,
let's narrow it down.
um,
In the professional, how about that? I narrowed it down here more. Professional baseball.
I hit 3 home runs in 1 game.
Oh,
Wow.
And I felt like I wasn't even there because I was like, I don't hit home runs anymore. What is happening? So that was probably my, as far as somebody looking at the paper, they would say, oh, that he did good that day. But I think, you know, the one thing that from playing to coaching, I've learned to enjoy the game instead of treat it like work. As a player, I was always trying to, I didn't have fun. I was trying to be good.
I like those
And
bats.
I started realizing that, you know, the guys that play really well and do it for a long time have fun. And so, you know, as a coach, I tell the kid, like, hey, enjoy it because it doesn't last forever. And, you know, you don't want to be a coach. You don't want to, you want to be at home sitting with your family and have a big bank account. You don't want to be traveling all over the place.
So I have a question. So when you see, like, when you're coaching players, when you're like dealing with all sorts of different people, is there like a difference between the really great ones? Like, can you kind of tell if a player's going to be great one day?
You know what they say, and this is, when you see it, you know it's different, but at the same time, the level I'm at, the biggest trick is listening to the other players, and I was really, at the time, I was pretty blessed to be in the players' inner circle, and so they talked a lot to me. And when they say that's unbelievable, you know it's unbelievable. So that's where I kind of, instead of using my opinion of what I think's good, when somebody said, like, we're standing with Hall of Famers and they're like, who's the best player? And they're like, Mike Trout. They don't even hesitate. So you kind of put your thoughts and go, you know what, I should say something different there.
So we have about 5 more minutes left.
Okay, go ahead.
CJ?
How much, I don't know, I've never sold any of it, but I have about 200 bats. Bats have kind of been my thing that I've collected from players and from people that I've worked with. So in my house, there's a room that's just all bats. They're on the
Wow.
ceiling, they're on the walls. But I'm sure if one day when I pass away and my wife decides to sell it, she's gonna do okay.
So words of inspiration that you can send us off with kids here in their life, challenges.
Oh, man. You know, enjoy being your age.
Yeah.
You know, right now, I know you guys probably think like there's a lot going on, but like, this is the best time of your life, and, you know, doesn't mean that your life can't get better, but right now, you probably have the least worries that you're gonna have. Moving into college and doing all that stuff, like, make yourself happy.
Okay, well, thank you.